Welcome to Liberty Talk. I'm Odessa Orlowitz. Today we have an SOS emergency for those of you guys that have forgotten about Bill C-293. We have lawyer Lisa Miron backstage waiting to come on. She's doing the circuit of podcasts because Canada has turned into an unlawful banana republic. Those are my words, not hers. And she wants to tell you guys how the WHO is just sliming their way into taking over Canada. And we need to do an action step right now that she has prepared for you to make it easier to contact. She'll tell me who to contact. It's either the senators, MLAs, MPs. She's got it all ready for you. The Conservatives, as far as I know, voted no for this, and the Bloc voted no. She can update me if I'm wrong about that, but this is a really important topic so you guys understand what's about to happen to Canada. Basically, I call it treason, but they're giving up all our rights to the WHO. That's all I have to say about that. But this woman's been a hero trying to get everybody to do this action step that she's spent probably 100 hours to make sure that you could just press a button. Quick message though, first, don't forget you can get apricot seeds, bitter, raw apricot seeds, non GMO, pesticide free, herbicide free from rncstore.com/Odessa. I'm having 3 a day like I'm supposed to. And if you don't know why I'm eating these, in the description will be the episode as to why I'm eating these. Very important that we have our bodies fight off the C word. These things are amazing. I love them. I have no reaction to them at all. Also, don't forget Adrian Spitters, my awake financial advisor friend, veteran financial advisor right here living in BC, who's completely awake. He's been part of our movement. He would love to tell you, if you have extra money, where you should be investing right now from an awake point of view, investing in land, investing in all of the homes being built. We know that they're going to continue to build. He has advice for you, and you can decide to take it or not. If you want advice from my friend, the financial advisor that's awake, go to adrianspitters.com. You can shoot him an email or a phone call, and he can set up a time to talk to you. No strings attached. You can decide if you want to go with him or not. So that's a pretty good deal. I absolutely love him. You guys may have met him at some of the protests. And if you want to stock up on what you might need for this winter coming up, you can get these 3 products from Sunshine Health at proton.me. You can just email her. I order from her every time I've got my package. It's 100% delivery guaranteed because the product is already here and it's already in the States. She's figured the whole thing out. So I would stock up if I were you, if these are products that you are interested in for the upcoming, let's admit it, flu season, detox season, whatever it is that's happening to our bodies. Good time to stock up. But let's bring our guest on. Let's get to our show with lawyer Lisa, litigator. She is very intelligent and she wants to talk to you about this document that is horrific for Canadians. Lisa, tell us a little bit about who you are as a lawyer, how you came to be doing this, and all that stuff.
Okay, hi everybody, and thank you first, Odessa, for bringing this awareness to everybody. And I know you have a very awake audience, so I won't spend too much time going into the dirty, dirty details, but give you the broad overstrokes. I've been a lawyer for 24 years. I did litigation. I had my own firm. I've sued the government. I have an environmental science degree with a minor in chemistry, and I am a reformed greenhouse gas person. I'm a climate realist. And I started waking up because of the truckers and because of the absolute insanity against people I loved who were unvaccinated. And so, if you were going against my mom, which people were, then I just had to stand up and start speaking out. And I've just never really stopped. I have a Substack, lawyerlisa.substack.com. In 2022, I reached out and emailed all my MPs regarding the IHRs, the International Health Regulation Amendments, and the World Health Organization Pandemic Treaty. I got a handful of response, Odessa, and one of those responses was from at the MP's office, Nathaniel Erskine Smith. And I still have his email where his office tells me it's a conspiracy theory and I should watch his podcast on conspiracy theories. So, um, who was sponsoring the bill at that time? The private members bill, which does the same thing or worse than the pandemic treaty? Nathaniel Erskine Smith. So by June of 2022, they'd had their first reading. And
Mhm.
so he was gaslighting me, right? Liberal, gaslighting me, not to worry, to stand down, that I don't have to have any concerns. It's all a conspiracy theory, and watch his podcast. So, one of the things I want to tell your audience is I have an action item where all you have to do is put in your information and your postal code, and it will send a letter. You can
Mhm.
put a little bit of your, maybe you want to edit the letter a little bit for yourself and why you're concerned. But you can do that, and it's going to be it's going to be in your notes for the show, I expect, so that you can tell everybody how to do that. So very, very easy. And some wonderful people help put that through, Connie and Doug and Dr. Rima. So big shout out. And
Yeah.
of course, big shout out to James Ragunski, who put us in
Mhm.
touch
Mhm.
and who behind the scenes has really helped out quite a lot.
Let's get everyone to be able to pull up this screen at the same time to get right to it. For those that know what's in 293, can we show that screen you showed me before?
So here is a one-click version where you put in your information here on the right, and you can send an email to senators. They have done one reading and are set to go back as early as September 17th. So it's an all hands on deck now, and to tell your senators to vote no.
So, guys, I'm gonna have, the link in the description,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
And if you're watching on Twitter, I'll put it in the comments. Same with
Okay.
Facebook.
I also wrote an open letter to the Senate, Parliament,
Mhm.
Pierre Poilievre, and every premier of the province. And I did that on September 3rd. People can look at that as well. And it's in my Lawyer Lisa Substack. Just look for my open letter to Senate. Very
Yeah.
important to do that.
Your Substack address is lawyerlisa.substack.com?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
And before I forget,
And
because
the,
I don't wanna forget,
yes.
you're saying, I think, or somebody said, the Conservatives and Bloc voted against this, but I have a question for you because I don't wanna forget before we get into this bill.
Mhm.
With
Yep.
the collusion being at least publicly, they're saying they're not gonna collude together anymore, the NDP and the Liberals. Can that help that maybe the NDP will vote against this now, or do you think the NDP will vote for it still?
So it's had three readings of the House. NDP voted for it, and now we're seeing that the Bloc Québécois is going to likely support the Trudeau government. So it's just a little bit of a dance.
Okay.
My next one click will be to email MPs to cross the floor. Like, this is a coup. We're experiencing a coup, and they need to cross the floor and actually perhaps table legislation that just defeats everything that Justin Trudeau has put forth over his tenure as the worst prime minister ever.
Yeah, so
Um,
this is a coup by the WHO, correct?
yeah, let me get right into how it works.
Okay.
Okay. So we're not going to start with the bill. We're going to start with the 2005 International Health Regulations. And back in 2005, the WHO decided that every country needed to have an IHR focal point. And so think of that as a satellite office of the WHO. And I sort of thought, okay, so I'm going to track down the satellite offices of the WHO. And I found the satellite office in every single country. Okay. And so I decided I should find out where is Canada's satellite office. I found this information on pharmaapproach.com. So this is Canada's national focal point for the WHO. It's in Washington, D.C., at an organization called PAHO. When you get to PAHO, and that's www.paho.org/CAN. And PAHO identifies themselves as the Pan American Health Organization / WHO. So they literally are the WHO. So our satellite office for the WHO is in Washington, and it's the WHO. They say they identify what the portfolio is. Now, this is where it's really big news. And when you combine it with this bill, you're just going to lose your stomach. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency, the Canadian Institute of Health Research, also who approves of, the research being done or funds it, Health Canada, right? That's big, Health Canada. Patented Medicines Price Review Board. So I wonder who decides what vaccines we're getting or how much we're paying for them. And last but not least, tip of our spear, the Public Health Agency of Canada. So first and foremost, the satellite offices of the WHO for Canada are right in the office of PAHO, who calls themselves the Pan American Health Organization World Health Organization. And for your readers to pay attention here, your listeners, the Public Health Agency of Canada is theirs. They've been for the last 20 some years going back and forth and embedded each other in terms of being a focal point. And the Health Canada. Let's stop right there and take a look at that. Then we're going to look at what is horrific about this bill. Of course, Nathaniel Erskine-Smith, he's not running for election again. And it's a private member's bill, and it's egregious. And we've done the first reading, we've done the second reading, we've done the third reading at the House, and we've done the first reading at the Senate. And they're set to go back on September 17th. So it's a SOS Canada, because when you listen to what happens with this bill, you're going to feel the same way I do. So let's talk about big, broad strokes. This act is called an Act Respecting Pandemic Prevention and Preparedness. First, nothing about level 1, 2, 3, 4 labs and whether or not they're doing gain of function of research, whether or not we should be funding those labs. Also, Odessa, nothing in here about the conflict of interest between the WHO, Gavi, and the people who make a lot of money off of pandemics. Nothing, right? If pandemics are profitable, right? Show me your compensation package and I'll show you what happens. So if you make pandemics profitable, well, nothing about that conflict of interest. And that glaringly, those aren't in there. But what is in there? In the preamble and in the bill, a One Health approach. Well, the talking point for One Health approach is that, everybody will have the same approach around the world. Nuh-uh. They define it. It's multi-sectoral and multidisciplinary. So every sector, this is going to cover every sector. They're transferring power on every sector. Every discipline, collaborative approach that focuses on human, let's listen, focus, human, animal, plant, ecosystem health, everything in God's green earth, and the welfare interface, which is your interface, your interaction with your government. All that is central to preventing the risk of future pandemics. Okay, the risk. Risk is not defined. Okay, so who gets to draft this plan? Well, it's the Ministry of Health that drafts this plan. Remember how we said, who's the satellite office of the WHO? Well, the Minister of Health is already a satellite office of the WHO.
Right. So they've infiltrated themselves into our systems, like Children's Health Defense, Christine Colbeck, Children's Health Defense Canada was saying, and we only covered it for like 10 minutes. But when we say it's literally outside forces, one world government, it's right there glaringly in our face.
Yep, it's the
Yeah.
International Health Regulations National Focal Points, NFP. And that is, Health Canada. It's Health Canada that has to draft this quote plan, okay? And so they have to identify key drivers of pandemic risk and describe how Canadian activities, domestic and abroad. So unpack that. Activities isn't defined. So anything a Canadian is doing, that could contribute to the risk. And where? Domestically and abroad. So it has this broad, omnipotent jurisdiction. Just everywhere. We all of a sudden are going to be making law everywhere. Well, who thinks they can make law everywhere? The WHO. Globalists do. Canadians don't think they can govern people who live in other countries. Other countries are supposed to govern those people and be subject to that law. And it's contribute to the risk. It's not like, this is a material risk. This is a really important risk. No, any risk, and it just has to contribute. So it's a very loosey-goosey nexus that gets that One Health everything approach on all activities And where? Everywhere. And then we're just in the like first little bit, sustained collaboration. So sustained collaboration means all the time sustained, right? All the time, again and again, all the time between the Minister of Health and provincial governments and Indigenous communities. So this is their mandate to infiltrate the provincial governments, to infiltrate the Indigenous
Community.
communities, right?
Well,
And
we
for
should
the
scream to the indigenous about this. If you think that you're going to have any sovereignty, you guys are having the wool pulled over your eyes. Let's not even
oh,
get into the land and the treaties, but look at they're
for
saying
sure.
indigenous as well. I find it
Oh yeah.
disgusting that this politician called you a conspiracy theorist when you're literally a successful litigator who actually can look at what's happening here and you understand text.
When they come out, they're just, confirmation or underlining the fact that you're right. When the trolls comes out, you're over target. So bring them on. Bring them
Yep.
on, baby.
Yep.
So to align approaches and address any jurisdictional challenges. What jurisdiction challenges? Well, there's that extraterritorial jurisdiction, Canadians abroad, like this omnipotent jurisdiction they want to have. There's the jurisdiction between the provinces and also the federal jurisdiction, right? So under the Constitution, health and resources are supposed to be the province. Well, that's a jurisdiction, right? And then there's the jurisdiction of the court over the executive branch and the legislative branch, right? So they want to smooth out, they want sustained collaboration between all these people to smooth out the jurisdictional challenges and including with
When
respect to the
when they
collection
say jurisdictional challenges,
challenges. Yes.
that reminds me of when from the WEF, Klaus Schwab about 4 years ago said, "We will figure out local laws in each country. We're gonna have to, like, override local laws. We have to figure out the law issue." So this is saying they wanna infiltrate our court system too. So all our sovereignty is flushed down the damn toilet with this.
Oh, is it like I don't know if they're getting into the court system, how they're smoothing it out, but they're definitely put the salvo there. They really
Smooth
put the salvo there. Um,
Oh, smoothing it out.
yeah, smoothing it out.
The
Um,
issue of, "Hey, we wanna take over, but there's this thing called Canadian law, so we're just gonna maybe bribe and pressure and blackmail and make you feel like you're a conspiracy theorist judge if you don't go along to get along." This is disgusting.
I think we have to neutralize all the names that they're sending to us. I don't really care what you
Yeah,
call me.
I don't
Right.
care either, but
Right. We have to tell everybody it's time to neutralize
yeah.
the names because the next things that they want to neutralize is through prison, right? We see that in Bill 63.
That
So,
that website you just showed us where you did all the work for us,
yeah.
is the letter there as well, or is there a separate link they should look for in my description?
I'll send you the links after this,
Okay,
for sure.
okay.
Absolutely. But the next one is provide training programs, including. Now, remember, including always means not limited when you're reading a contract provision or a statute. Collaborative activities with other levels of government, Indigenous communities, and relevant agencies. Now, where I go with this is because New Zealand has adopted its pandemic prevention plan and it has having to train the civil authority like the police. And in their plan, the police can assist with force, if necessary, the chief medical officer of health and any of their employees with the following tasks. And it includes quarantining people, animals, vessels, places, so your entire town, and things, your house, whatever, what's in it. You have the civil authority in this training program. That's where that's headed if it's going to be anything like what's going on in New Zealand. So
Yeah,
that's really problematic.
and forced vaccination, I believe, where they can hold you down and force vaccinate you,
So
right?
what the plan says, I think it's in 70H, 71 sub H or sub F. It says that once you're in quarantine, that civil authority can assist with force if
Yeah,
necessary, the chief medical officer of health to provide an individual preventative medicine. So, hey, with force is necessary. Okay, so ensure that standards and guidelines that pertain to the prevention and response of pandemic risk are aligned with the approach in 3A. Okay, so when you get to 3A, you realize again, so what is 3A? It has to be multi-sectoral. So they got to get in every sector. It has to be multidisciplinary. You have to be in every discipline. And it has to focus on human, animal, plant, ecosystem health, welfare, right? So we'll go and look at that 3A again. But what you see is if you're a lazy reader, maybe you think One Health is good. And so you just don't pay attention. So maybe some of these MPs don't really understand how to read this. And this is D, describe the state of research. Again, they get to describe the state of the research. So if there's research that doesn't agree with them, you won't hear about it. You're not allowed to talk about it. They own this, right, in relation to preventing and responding to infectious disease. And I've got to tell you, in Harvard, and we can put that in the link, the T. Chan School of Public Health. So we saw that the plan said they get to describe the state of research. So I said to myself, what is the state of research? Like, what causes pandemics? So that's what I Googled. And the first result, and there was a lot, all the same. Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. So this is Harvard. This is the state of research. And climate change is central, apparently. So how does it work? They only have to concern something that is a risk of something that could cause a pandemic. Pandemic's not defined. Could cause is like, so, tenuous. But here it is. As the planets heats up, animals big and small on land and sea are headed to the poles to get out of the heat. That means animals are coming into contact with the other animals they normally wouldn't. And that creates the opportunity for pathogens to get into new hosts. So wow, right? The root causes of climate change also increase the risk of pandemics. So this is squarely where the state of research is, because this is Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. Deforestation, which occurs mostly for agricultural purposes, is the largest cause of habitat loss worldwide. So when you see deforestation in this bill, I want you to know that it means agriculture. And when you see habitat loss or reforesting, it means taking people out of agriculture or taking people out of rural areas. And then they say large livestock farms can serve as a spillover for infections to people, less demand for animal meat, and more sustained animal husbandry could decrease emerging infectious disease, okay? And lower greenhouse gas emissions. So it's also circular, and that's how the big brains there think. Keep that in mind because they get to describe the state of research. So I just looked up who their friends are and what the state of research says, and that's it. Provide for the establishment and interlinking of surveillance systems for infectious disease in Canada. We already had that, but they get even more powers to establish and have interlinking surveillance system. So what are they linking that they didn't have before? What powers are they giving themselves here? So that's a big concern.
So this is all being run from an office in Washington, D.C. that they're saying is Canada, pretty much.
Well, the national focal point address is in Washington, D.C. So I don't want to oversimplify it. And it's called PAHO. And it lists 4 or 5 Canadian sort of departments that they are the focal point with. How close are they? Over 20 some years where the information has to go back and forth. How close are they?
What a joke.
Yeah. Here we have to identify strategies for the protection of vulnerable and marginalized populations. We saw where that went before. It's about closing down all of society. Every economic interest was hurt, and that was for the protection of vulnerable societies. And we've also seen the idea that the rainbow now is vulnerable to religious views, right? And so how are they going to protect that vulnerable part of society from religious views? Like, the places that this goes are the imagination of who drafts the plan. Since they don't limit their powers, then, and they don't limit it in language, right? We don't know where they're going to go with this. We have to assume the broad mandate because that's how it's written. And then
Mm.
they get to talk about the working conditions of essential workers across what? All sectors. That's your employment across all sectors. They get to define who's essential and they get to define the working conditions of those people. So what? Do you have it's climate change. You work from your 15-minute city?
Well, this is their climate change thing. Is
Right.
there a way of saying, "Oh, we have to shut down everything," and I
Yes.
mean, yeah, my audience knows this is the agenda, this is what they are going to do. They're going to try to do. Here's the issue. Even though this is coming once this thing is signed, because I'm sure it will be, uh, but well, I'm not sure it will be. We do need to let the MPs, MLAs, your thing sends it to the correct person. I assume you just enter your postal code probably, right? And then your
Yeah.
yeah, your person comes up. So you guys, she's done all this work for you. You know, maybe 5 minutes less of scrolling Facebook, and how about we do that today instead?
If
You know,
everybody lets two people know and
yeah.
follows up with those two people and says to
Yeah.
them, you let two people know, right?
They need to know that if they do this and they let another entity outside of Canada shut down our country, tell us that, because it rained, we got to shut down your country. I mean, if they allow this to happen, they need to know that a massive portion of Canada is just going to say no. And they're going to be trying to dictate to us from somewhere else. And then it's going to be hell for our politicians. And it has to be hell for our politicians that they agreed to this crap.
This is even worse. This one, Odessa, it talks about the availability and management of relevant stockpiles. So that means they manage stockpiles. So what is that? Our food? What are they managing? Right?
Anything they want, everything.
Right.
You're showing us that it's in every sector, another entity that literally makes money off of locking us down, forcing vaccinations. Bill Gates is buying all this land. China's buying up all this land. They'll
Yeah.
be the ones that farm. They'll be the ones that manufacture their GMO crap. The power of these globalists.
You're
I don't
right.
know how this idiot can call you a conspiracy theorist when you're like, dude, I'm looking at the text.
They say availability leads you to think that they're going to make things available, but availability can be making things unavailable. I want you to see just how broadly this is written. And when they don't limit their powers, it's anything. And this is nudging, okay? They say including testing equipment. Well, they define what's relevant. Is it EVs? Like, I don't know. The surge capacity. Now, here's where we get into the Ministry of Industry. Ministry of Industry, this is our manufacturing capacity. And look at here the communication capacity and infrastructure for electronic platforms and tools, including electronic applications for contract tracing. So that's probably what we're used to. That including is the nudging word, electronic applications, right? But what they're getting is power over your communications capacity, for your communications infrastructure, for electronic platforms and
Wow.
tools. So that's a transfer of power within here on a vast important part of Canada, which is our communications, right?
Yeah.
And so that goes. And like when I said bugs before, let's look at Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food right here. Right here. And the provincial governments,
It's
right? They're
pretty much
telling them,
it's a transfer of Canada, all
uh-huh,
of its infrastructure.
under the guise that it's to reduce some small risk of something that could cause none of those things defined, a pandemic not defined, right? They
Or
get
climate change.
right.
So, in other words, this bill signs away all of Canada to an outside entity.
It's a
End
coup.
end
It's a
of
coup.
story. It's a coup, and everybody needs to look at this. If you're just seeing this as a clip, you need to go to the full Rumble show to look at this. And we're
Well, look at
providing links of
this
all of
is
this.
this is them going. They have to reduce or regulate industrial animal agriculture. And guess what? What we just said in the Harvard study, here it is: promote commercial activities that can help reduce pandemic risk, including The production of alternative proteins. We eat bugs to reduce pandemics. That's how ridiculous this. We eat bugs to reduce pandemics. And then this is your expropriation possibility. Okay? A summary of changes in land use, including in relation to, remember those keywords I took you to? Disturbed habitats that could contribute to pandemic risks such as deforestation. When we go over there, what's deforestation cause? Agriculture, right here. Deforestation occurs mostly for agriculture purposes. It's the largest cause of habitat. So us eating is the problem. That's how we solve for pandemics. So listen to the circular logic. Pandemics are bad for humans. We've got to stop it. We are going to stop it by making sure there's no agriculture and that you don't eat. Right?
Everything behind the Green Mask book said was going to happen before she passed away, the author, is happening.
Hmm.
She's been screaming about it for 10 years.
Wow.
Before
Wow.
before COVID.
Right. So there's Ministry of Transportation. How does everything get into your cities, the routes? I mean, do we have to get rid of cars and trains and planes and shut down borders because of it? This is a police state, and if people want to have a very generous reading of this and assume that everything is benevolent, then they're, in my view, stupid or co-opted.
Yeah.
Right? They're one
Well,
of
the conservatives were smart enough to say no to it. They saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah, and we're very glad. And we're very glad.
Oh, that leads me to an important question.
Yeah.
If this goes through and the Polyev government gets in, can they, is the word repeal it? Can they cancel it?
Look, they can, but why don't we ask them to do it beforehand? I'm going to be talking to some people to make a new one-click that will circulate afterwards for asking the MPs to cross the floor. And maybe
And
you can ask your video, cross the floor now.
well, that's a good idea. You're correct. But if the conservatives get in and this does pass, because with the
Mhm.
collusion between NDP and Libs, I don't care if publicly they say they're not colluding anymore. The NDP are even more communist than the Libs, pretty much, especially here in BC. My God, the provincial NDP, God help us all.
Yeah.
But the first thing we have to do if Polyev gets in is just be protesting to get rid of this thing day
I don't want you to
one.
go down that like far away thing to defer action. We need action now.
No, we
This
do, but we also, if it goes through, we also need to do that as well. But they
right.
need to start understanding now because this letter, this thing you've created for us that's easy to do, and I'm going to do it today, it goes to conservative politicians as well, right? So they're going
Yeah.
to see, oh my gosh, people don't want this. We got to get rid of this if we get in. We need to put the bird in their ear too.
Yeah, we do. But I say this is a hands on deck now. And the reason why is a couple things. As soon as the WHO declares it's fake, right? Then there's the idea that we could immediately, once this is passed, be in this scenario. And that could be before an election. That's my concern. And
Yep.
that's why I'm saying this is an SOS Canada. And I see some people saying that the advisory committee response to coronavirus review has been taken out. It's still there. It's a complete non issue, really, because they'll stack that committee. And what would that committee do to change this gross transfer of power? They would just have to take into account those recommendations. So,
Yeah, we were
don't.
saying backstage because there is some confusion. I do want to talk about this. I'm not going to
Mhm.
name names, but some people thought it was taken out, but you're saying no, it's always been there. But it doesn't matter because what politician has stood up, especially NDP and liberals, and gone, I mean, even the conservatives haven't. We made grave mistakes. We shouldn't have locked people down, destroyed businesses. The masks don't work. We shouldn't have forced vaccinated people to keep their job because, whoops, it's not even working. They're never going to admit they're wrong. So this little council to review what they did wrong
Oh,
They're just
it's
going to go, oh, we did nothing wrong.
yeah, they won't say they did anything wrong, or I don't believe they will. And then second, even if they took in that recommendation into account, that is likely to be good, as you indicated. It doesn't stop this provision in or out. Delete it or put it back in. It doesn't stop the transfer of power. It's such a red herring in my viewpoint. So it's there. I'm looking at it right now. This is the version as passed by the House. And even if the Senate takes it out, puts it back in, takes it out, puts it back in 17,000 times, I don't care. This is
Mhm.
a transfer of power, and it's a coup on everything. Oh, and they get to ratchet every 3 years. They get to do a new plan. And then this is what troubled some people in the legal community that I spoke with: amendments to the Department of Health Act. Okay, so they add 4.11. The national coordinator, i.e., the tip of the spear, for the purposes of coordinating the activities under the Pandemic Prevention and Preparedness Act, the minister, right, who we saw is part of the national focal point of the WHO, shall appoint a national pandemic prevention preparedness coordinator, aka dictator, from among the officials of the Public Health Agency of Canada, aka another part of the national focal point of the WHO. So, and delegate to the coordinator. If we weren't already talking about a One Health approach where everything's concerned and we have communications, we have absolutely agriculture, we have changing land use, we now have that they can delegate to the coordinator the powers not defined, duties not defined, and functions not defined that the minister considers appropriate. So another black box. That's huge. That is huge. So anybody who says I'm a conspiracy theorist, tell me how to read that as limited powers, limited duties, and limited functions. Tell me what those powers are. Tell me what those duties are. Tell me what those functions are. Tell me. Go ahead. And right here, if you read this one, set out in consultation with relevant ministers a summary of key cooperative measures. A cooperative measure that could be set out in a memo or an email. That doesn't have to be debated. That doesn't have to, go before Parliament. That's a cooperative measure or agreements on disease outbreak prevention and preparedness between the Government of Canada. So the coordinator can have a cooperative measure with the Government of Canada. That's the Minister of Health. So it could be literally that circular. Or they could have a cooperative measure with foreign governments, international organizations, Gavi, NGOs, including, that means not limited to, WHO, UN Environment Program. That's going after climate, it's going after your land, going after what you eat. The WHO for animal health, deforestation, remember leading cause is agriculture, and the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. If you go to what they think, we're the problem. I'm going to stop sharing because I'm sure you and I just want to wrap up on some key matters or
It's just
questions
such
you might
it's so big. It just covers everything.
have. Right.
This is a everything bill. Like sovereignty gone. Our politicians are out of it. They don't make the decisions. The
That's right.
UN, Bill Gates, WHO,
Right.
they decide. And funny enough, Bill Gates makes money off these vaccines. Bill Gates makes money if they use his farms and his GMO instead of ours. The conflict of interest is so fucking disgusting. I'm sorry to use an F word. I have a lot of Christian viewers. I'm Christian too. But there's a time and a place for an F bomb. This is insanity.
Yeah.
We've already been taken over. The fact that they're going to sign this, we've been taken over. It's now
This is
we
a
at a
coup.
it's a
This,
coup. We at a street level must say no to this foreign entity.
yeah. You are going to see more and more people organizing. I am just the person bringing everyone's attention to it. And you know what? I'm glad to be alive. I'm glad to be here to help. I'm glad to do this job. I'm glad to see your viewers. And let's remember, the globalists have been doing this for 40, 50 years. They
Mhm.
keep getting back up on the horse when they fail, right? We're going to dust ourselves up and get up again. And this is an all hands on deck. One of
Mhm.
the biggest psyops, Odessa, is that we don't have personal power. One of the biggest psyops is, well, empires fall. It's just that time. It's that time. It's that empire fall time.
Mhm.
Just have to, right? No, it's subversion. No, it's you taking our communications from us and allowing us not making us that we cannot speak. No, right? This is not. Oh, it's our time to fall. Oh well, or even among the Christians, it's Jesus is coming, so let's
Yeah.
just sit back on our hands.
Mhm.
No, right?
Mhm.
Who went? If you're, if you know Jesus, what did he do
He
when
did
he
not
saw
sit on his
something wrong?
hands. He
Did not.
certainly did not sit on his hands
Wherever there was injustice, he was there.
till the very end.
Right? There's no end. There's no end. But we are that's another psyop to make us try to sit down on our hands. And the last
Mhm.
one is that, well, we have to wait to this election. Do you know what the real definition of politics is? It's
Mhm.
us organizing, right? The real definition of politics, what they do not want us to do, is do these letter writing campaigns, is
Yeah.
meet each other on the street, is talk to our neighbors. And you know what? This is for the left as much as the right, because I don't, when you go to your dinner table, when you go to your Christmas table, when you go to work, when you give hugs to the people you love, they're going to be on the left as well as the right. That's the way
Mhm.
my life is.
Yep.
And I've got lots of loved ones on the left. And what I think is if they knew this information, they wouldn't be looking at bought social justice, right? Right?
Yes.
Owned social justice,
Yep.
right? They would look at where power is moving and where power is assembling. And honestly, if we reach the left ever, they have an amazing ability to organize. Let's go, let's go.
This hurts them too. They
It hurts them.
they just don't know yet. It's really sad.
Well, I hope that when the trolls bring all kinds of attention, that they actually listen to the video as well, look at it, consider it, and then consider what their life is going to be like, in that regime where
Yeah,
they
no
continue it.
democracy. Democracy, voting, gone. You're not voting to make decisions anymore. Gone, gone. We a coup is about to happen on September, you think as early as the 17th.
As early as
So
the 17th. So all hands on deck, write your senators,
yep,
organize, call
yep,
people up. They write their senators, right?
yeah.
Write your MPs.
And if you're seeing this episode after the 17th, there could be a possibility they haven't done it yet, so get it in. Because, people watch my episodes for about 3 weeks before they fizzle.
Right,
So,
right.
or die down.
Mhm.
So, yeah, get it in. Get it in. And as soon as if it does pass, then we start writing to the conservatives saying, "You better get rid of this day 1."
Or we start writing the MLA, or, our MP in our area, and we say you have to cross the floor. You have to go and defeat this,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Enough of this funny business. You're in place, but we don't know how we win in so much as you have to take the first step, right? It's like Lord of the Rings. We're on a journey together, and you're not winning by sitting at home, getting scared. You're winning because you're going to believe in hope, believe in people power, and take action. And if that didn't work, why would they work so hard on taking down our democracy, on us having shame in our history? Why would they work so hard on that? You
Yeah.
know why they work so hard on that? Because they're afraid of it. They
Mhm.
are afraid of us coming. They are afraid of us understanding real politics, which is us organizing. They are afraid of the government and us infusing it with morality and requiring justice. And so that comes from us, and we communicate that. It doesn't come from them.
Mhm.
That's the psyop.
Yep. And the indigenous better see there's a line in there that they want to take over indigenous decisions too. Wakey, wakey, my indigenous friends, they're coming after you too. It's in this document.
Yes, it is. They want to have sustained collaboration with Indigenous communities to do this. And so everything is being bent towards this. So the WHO wants to assume, like, are they assuming our provincial governments or our Minister of Health for our good? No. So will they be, assuming the Indigenous communities for their good? No.
No.
Anything that I see in here, it doesn't have any limits on it. So they don't want limits. So
Exactly.
it's a gross, omnipotent power. They give themselves omnipotent power in terms of jurisdiction, in terms of reach, in terms of communication, and infiltrating all of our levels of government. So definitely, there's a lot of great Indigenous people that should be standing up for their people and to align with our freedom fighter Canadians.
Yep.
Please, we
Yep.
love you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're all screwed in this together. Red,
and
white, black, blue, gay, straight, whatever the heck you're doing, we're all screwed in this together, just so you know. A coup is being formed against all of us. You've been standing up since the beginning for our rights. And how lucky are we that some lawyers actually have the balls to do this? Because a lot of them are just too scared to speak out.
everybody, you taking action and you believing that politics starts and ends with the people. We are the people.
Mhm.
And you bet when you show up en masse and require action, that's what happens. We've got to change the dialogue. And I want to do it for the rest of the world too, because if Canada succeeds, remember the truckers was movement was for the rest of the world. If Canada succeeds, you think this domestication of this tyranny is here only? No, it's everywhere in all
Oh,
Five Eyes countries, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's go.
Oh, they're doing this in all the countries, their little office. We know this. My viewers are very smart.
I'm so grateful that you took the time to speak with me. I just really am. And thank you, everybody.
Well, vice versa. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
There's heroes everywhere. And I hadn't even heard of lawyer Lisa, but not one, not two, but three people emailed me and said, you have to have Lisa on. I wish I'd brought her on a while ago. But please, one less 5 minutes of scrolling. Please go into the description. Please click the link. She's done everything for you. I'll have everything you need to make this happen at the top of the description. Please make it happen. Find that 5 or 10 minutes. It's more effective than scrolling and commenting and bitching, isn't it? So if we can do one thing a day to make a difference and get your voice heard, it's so important right now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Quick message to my sponsor. I will see you guys next time. Did you know if the banks do a bail-in, they can take the contents in your bank vault? But storing your gold and silver at home could be a huge security risk. Every day, our dollar is worth less and less. Inflation is stealing the only savings families have. Now more than ever, it's so important to hedge the savings you've worked so hard for. Banks have been failing all over the world, and social credit has all but arrived. But did you know you can do wholesale price vaulting and retail delivery from the most prestigious, reliable company in Canada? Did you also know if you decide to leave Canada, your gold and silver can be sent right to you after you arrive to your destination? The only company I personally use and trust are those awake guys at New World Precious Metals. Take control of your family's future. You can just click the link in my show description or type in the web address libertytalkcanada.ca/gold to get on their mailing list, attend their webinar, or book an appointment. Let them know Odessa sent you.